All right. Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Want to give a few seconds for everyone to log on. Usually it takes a minute or two. In that time, we will introduce our guest behind us here, Mr. Donald Street, Sheriff. Welcome.
Thank you,
Great
sir.
to have you this morning.
Yes, absolutely.
I know when I first approached you about this, you didn't really know what in the world I was trying to do. But people like him are the people we want to be watching this, the people who have questions about everything we're talking about. Stuff in people's homes, water sources is what we're talking about today. And the less you know, the better. So just to ease your mind about what we're doing, we want you to know little, and hopefully by the time you leave here, you're like, oh, I know a significant amount more about what we're talking about. So that's the idea. Anything you want to add?
I'm sure by the end of the segment today that I still will not know enough that I will go out and venture it for myself.
Okay. Good deal.
Anybody that knows me knows I'm not mechanically inclined there. So,
Well, good.
But I want to thank y'all for having me here today. I've worked here at the Sheriff's Office for 34 years. I mean, I'm truly blessed to be able to say that. Not many people can say that they go to work every day and enjoy their job. Sometimes it's not as good as others, but I'm truly blessed.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you. Yeah.
So getting into that, why we do these videos, just for anybody that's new watching that may really don't know what you're getting yourself into, why we do these videos, we talked about for a while leading up to doing these videos that there's a lot of people out there who are not comfortable in their own home. You buy a car, you buy a phone, it comes with an owner's manual. You know what you're getting, and if there's something that happens, you can read through that owner's manual and say, okay, this is what's going on with it, this is how I'll fix it. You don't get that with your home. The biggest purchase of your life, and you don't have an owner's manual. We can't make an owner's manual here. It would be that big or bigger. So what we want to do is just offer this for people to watch us talk about different topics, and hopefully over time they can learn more about what they have purchased, what they are trying to maintain their homes. So in doing that, we'll cover another topic today. And if you do want to get in on asking questions, go to burlesonplumbing.com/QA. That is the way to ask questions. I want to say that in the beginning, in the end, in the middle, because we still need questions.
Yeah, we need some questions.
We're running out. We've got some left, but we're running low on those questions. And I know there's plenty more out there. So if you've got questions on your water, your filtration, why is your house cold, different things, any topic that you think about in your home, go to burlesonplumbing.com/QA, ask those questions, and we will get them answered.
And when you ask a question, you get put into a drawing.
Yes.
And this time around, we're giving away a Honeywell Lyric Wi-Fi thermostat.
And that is awesome. You can actually download the Honeywell app on your phone and go at any time and see the temperature of your home, turn the temperature down, up if you're on vacation, see what's going on temperature-wise in your home. It sends you alerts when it gets too low, too high. So
awesome little.
I would need y'all to come and install that for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would love to.
We just gave away a faucet to Miss Sheila Williams. She entered a question and won a kitchen faucet. She said the same thing. She said, you're going to have to install that for me. I said, we'd be happy to. So I think she's actually thinking about doing the whole sink and everything.
Oh, great.
If Coach, her husband, will approve, I think, which I think he will. Sheila, I think, has got some pull.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ask questions. We'd love for you guys to get in on some of that. Next section is, hey, that's neat.
Hey, that's real neat.
We do an item each week that we just think's neat and people need to know about. Since we're on the topic of water this week, this is and I know everything's reversed, this is a total water quality test kit that we sell.
That's neat.
It is neat. It's really neat. You can go home and you can test your water. If you're wondering about bacteria, lead, pesticides, the alkalinity, chlorine, hardness, pH, iron, copper, nitrates, nitrites. So all those things you can find out about your water here for $23.95. So
how easy is it to use?
pretty good price. It walks you through the steps. You just get your water sample. It's got a little test tube in there, and it tells you the chemicals you put in there, and then it based on coloration and everything. It gives you a readout of what you use. It's everybody that's gotten one. I've never had somebody come back and say I had no clue how to use it. They figured it out themselves, and we've sold it to all walks of life. So
how long does it usually take to get your test?
With this kit, it's like you're doing it right then. It's not like a week-long process. It's,
color indicator tells you pretty quick.
So you're going to know almost immediately on these.
Great little product.
Okay, and our pen sponsor for the day.
Who did it this week?
We have another Pilot G207 here, and this week's sponsor is Roan Industries over in Bakersville. You're familiar with Roan?
I am familiar with Roan Industries.
Roan Industries, if you're not familiar, will test your water for you.
Mm-hmm.
So everything we just talked about plus more, they are certified to get your water tested. We have the kits here at the counter. People can pick them up, and I think Roan charges $50, but it gives you a complete, full-scale water test.
Yeah, it's at lab tested.
Yep.
Like
so if you don't like the pressure of testing your own,
send it over there to those guys.
but if you don't trust anybody and you want to test your own, we have
That's
that
right.
too.
You have trust issues, then go this route.
No, all the time. Where's that at?
In Bakersville, I've never been to Roan Industries. We hand out kits on a daily basis, and it has their address on there.
I want to see it.
I
can't remember.
I was thinking of Roan Upholstery, but it's not the.
No,
Okay.
no, but I've never physically been over there, but I've seen.
It's up there somewhere.
Yeah,
somewhere.
it's in Bakersville.
Go there.
We actually on the comments on this, I can comment and put the address.
Yep.
That way people know where to go.
Thanks for the pen.
Thank you for the pen. Also, we will dig into some questions now. I'm going to say a quick disclaimer. Everything we suggest and recommend are simply that. We want everyone to be educated on how things work, but not how to work on technical things. We always recommend hiring a licensed service professional where risk is involved. Burleson Plumbing and Heating and its employees are not responsible for your injury, damages, or loss related to you, your property, or your home. So, where there's risk involved, which
There
water,
is.
we're not
There
talking
is.
about your water source today, your drinking water. There's risk involved, so
Stay safe.
stay safe. Our question today, we have one question, it's a big topic, is from Rebecca over at Treehouse in Spruce Pine Realty.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Rebecca asks, how do you properly take care of a spring? So for those of you not familiar, a spring water system, they're a well, you're drilling down, tapping into a water source deep in the ground, and pumping that water back out. A spring is coming up from the ground to the surface, and you try to catch it as close as you can to the ground, run a pipe into a reservoir box, and then pump that into your house, or use gravity to go to your house. So that's the system we're talking about, and Rebecca wants to know, how do you properly take care of a spring? Ryan, you want to get us started on that topic?
Sure. That's a great question. Springs are interesting little guys, and so it's very important. I think one of the biggest things in properly caring for a spring would be that you actually pay attention to your spring. How many times have we heard stories or know of situations where somebody finds an animal that is no longer with us, floating in a spring, or other things that find their way into springs. And so it's a good idea. One of the first things that you can do is just be mindful of the fact that it takes maintenance, and it takes you going and actually looking at it and checking on it on a regular basis. And by regular, that needs to be more than just once a year. You should be probably doing it every week, something like that, every few days, because things happen in animals, especially animals, or the wind blows and blows something into the head of the spring, and essentially you're trying to keep out any potential contaminants, or something that has the ability to provide a contaminant, like an animal. And so that's one of the biggest things that you can do just right out the gate, is just check it out. Make sure that it's covered, make sure that it's clean, make sure that there's nothing floating around in it, things like that.
And here's the thing, and Don, you can attest to this. Today's age is people want it done for them. Everything about the world we live in is kind of carefree, throwaway. I mentioned to Ryan before you got here that I don't know how many people own a car. They bought the car. They spent who knows how much money on the car, and they've never opened the hood. They haven't looked under the hood. They have no interest in looking under the hood. Even if they don't know what they're looking at, they're like, I don't care. I'll get somebody else to do it for me. That's kind of what we're talking about with the spring. Is one of the main things, if you have a spring water source, is at any given time it can collapse. The roof could collapse on the reservoir. A lot of old spring boxes literally was a concrete box that somebody has made, and they put a piece of big plywood over the top to cover it. As we know, plywood will break down, and there's people who've lived in these houses with a spring water source, lived in it for 10 years, and they might have been up there once or maybe none at all. So that's the big thing, is just being aware.
Yeah.
You never know what is going to die around your spring box, what maybe is going to poop around your spring box. Is there livestock? That's a big thing around here. People put it up in a pasture, and cattle are going to go to where the water's at. And if something around that spring is leaking or overflow, that's where they're going to get their water. So they're all around where your drinking water is at. So being aware and keeping things out. So talk us through, what are some ways to keep things out?
I would say the overall containment method that you're using needs to be in good shape. So whatever whether it's a box or it's concrete or however they've divided, and some of these springs have been around for 100 years. Families have been getting water from the same place for a long time if it's a good spring. So, maybe since it's 2018, it's time to upgrade that a touch and fix it from where it was installed back in the 40s or whatever. So definitely evaluating and inspecting the box that it's in. If it's covered with a tarp, maybe going a different route than a tarp would be a good idea, because tarps break down because of the sun. They will let rainwater through, so maybe look into getting some kind of little roof type thing to put over it. The biggest thing is just making sure that it's in good shape and that it's protected on all sides to keep at least as much things as possible out of it. One of the biggest things that we hear of a lot is salamanders getting in there, and then they crawl in the pipe, and then, hey, I have no water. And so our guys go out there, and sure enough, old Sal is
salamanders, frogs
stuck in there. Frogs, stuff like that. So if you can keep it covered and contained, you can hopefully keep some of those potential things.
The tadpole
out.
fit up the pipe and the frog didn't fit back out. So those sort of things happen frequently.
That's a problem,
Another thing on that is if you go to your reservoir, your springs box, and it's just broken all to pieces, or you think, okay, it's time to upgrade, we have those options as well. So your options nowadays, you can put in another concrete box. The thing I don't like about concrete is that it breaks down over time. A lot of things are going to break down over time. But to me, a plastic reservoir is just going to have a little bit more longevity. So that's one thing we install, is a plastic reservoir box that's going to withstand more years of weathering. So those are buried in the ground, and that's something we install. We do the whole Traco service, dig the hole, put the new reservoir box in, and kind of clean it up for people. So as far as maintenance, let's talk through, like you said, weekly going out there and checking it, monthly going out there. But I would recommend yearly servicing. So some of the things that entails, you want to go to your spring box, your reservoir, open the lid, and just clean out any debris that's got there. There may be leaves, there may be sand is a big issue.
Sand's going to be a big issue.
The issue with sand is it's very small, and that's going to come into your reservoir and then go back out. All that sand is going to get caught in your faucets. It's going to ruin pipes. It's going to ruin the working parts of your faucets.
It's rough on pump impellers and things like that.
So there's some big issues with sand. So you want to get all the sand and debris out of the bottom. Stop your water source from coming in. Try to get your water down in the reservoir so that you can get down there and really just clean out all that debris, all that sand, dirt, rock, salamanders, frogs, everything. Then brushing the sides, a good wire brush, and cleaning all the growth, algae growth, anything that may have been built up on the sides. Brush that off, clean it out, And then we have a product here called Well Shock.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few different brands. The one we have now is Steriline. And what that is a Clorox, very concentrated Clorox that you put in based off how much water supply you have. You put that in there. It will shock the water. It basically kills all your bacteria. The big issue with spring systems is bacteria. You got a lot of ways that bacteria can get into the spring systems. That shock's going to kill everything in the water. And then you turn your water on in your house and let it just run through all the pipes, because any water that's sitting in the pipes came from that same water source. So you want to run your outdoor spigots, your showers, faucets, everything to get that Clorox out of the system, or you're going to taste it and smell it.
Mm-hmm.
So just running everything through, not into your clothes, not into your dishes, just let it run. Run that spring box back down. And then when it comes and fills back up, you shouldn't taste as much of the chlorine.
It'll eventually dissipate.
And all the bacteria will be killed.
Is that also good for a well?
Yes, that's what we primarily use it for. Mm-hmm. By law, by code, anytime that we open the wellhead, which is the cover that covers your well, we have to put that shock in there. Because when you've opened it, you've allowed a situation, it may be for 10 seconds, a minute or 10 minutes, whatever, for bacteria to enter the well system. So we have to shock that well. We then tell the homeowner, hey, look, you need to run your water and get this out of there so that you don't taste and smell it. It's just to save you from bacteria issues.
So now if you accidentally drink a little bit of that water and it's still got that stuff in it, would it hurt you?
It's not. They say on it that it's trying to think of the word they use. I would say, but based on the smell of it, it's like pool water. Like
you're gonna have to smell it.
Everybody's drinking pool water, and it's definitely not something you want to ingest a lot of.
When we're getting it for customers at the counter, we usually use a cap to measure it out, and we pour it in a brown bag for them. It literally will take your breath.
Yeah,
it's
super
that
concentrated.
Potent,
one cap full, I think, is like 100 gallons or something like that. So it's made to work, but you also are. I mean, you're going to taste it, you're going to smell it, and that's the only thing. People were like, "Well, how long does it take?" I'm like, "Well, how much water have you ran out of your system?" Because it literally will sit in your system until you've ran it all through.
And city water they're doing our municipalities kind of doing the same thing, anyways. They're chlorinating water. Any city water, there's a hint of
it's not going to be as strong, but you can definitely.
Yeah. But it is a good idea to run it out. A lot of times we tell people for half an hour or longer, just let it run.
That's a good question though, because we get that all the time. People asking, "How do I kill the bacteria?" And then once they get that well shock from us and use it, they're like, "Well, how do I get it out of there?"
Yeah. When am I ever going to be able to drink this again?
Very common question. What else can people do to help their water be free from bacteria besides shocking or cleaning the reservoir out?
Well, we do offer a UV filter, and so what that is it's actually a ultraviolet light bulb. So the water actually passes through that, and that bacteria and evidently ultraviolet light don't go together, and so it kills any bacteria as it's passing through this inline filter. And so that's another good. It's kind of like a safe vault. If you don't feel comfortable with your spring water and you want that extra added protection, then a UV filter system is a great way to do that. We stock them. It's very simple install, and it literally is like just a kind of a cylinder looking inline filter.
Yeah, it's definitely something to budget for. It's not a, we carry whole house filters that are, you can get them installed for around $100. This would be more of, I think, the $500 to $700 range. I'm pretty sure for UV filter. So it's a little more, and you need to replace the bulb. I think on a yearly basis, most people have to with a spring system, because it's constantly catching that bacteria, and it creates scale on that UV bulb. So you have to replace the bulb and the sleeve yearly, and I think that's around $80 to $100 change for the product. So it does add a price tag, but to ensure you're getting the bacteria out of your water, being safe to drink, it's a very good idea in a spring system.
And it has no taste. It's not
Correct.
You know, it's not adding anything to your water. It's just kind of zapping.
Yeah, it's a bug zapper for the bacteria.
Yeah, exactly.
When it passes through.
Without the buzz.
Yeah.
Right. Other water filtration things we offer, just to touch on that while we're on the topic, not necessarily in a spring system, but well and spring, any water. If you've got a pH issue, an iron issue, with pH, you're not going to be able to visibly see it as much. But with testing the water with this total water quality test kit, or Rowan Industries, or we offer free testing on pH, iron, and hardness. We can see what your pH level is. You know, the pH scale is going from 0 to 14, 7 being that sweet spot that you kind of want it in, 7 or above. There's a lot of pH issues around here. Tons of them. With very low pH. I know city water, my city water at the house is at 6, so that's acidic water. We've got the filter systems that will raise that pH back up. So that's something else to look at. Iron is huge. There's different pockets around the area where there's just iron pockets, and everybody who calls us from that area, they're like, I think I've got an iron issue. We're like, where do you live? And if they're in different spots, there's different spots. Over Estito, there's a pocket where anybody who lives within this range, we're like, yeah, it's probably iron. But an easy way to tell that is if you've got some staining in your toilet tank. If you pull the lid off the tank, the back of the toilet, and it's red in there, more than likely that's an issue with iron. Iron will show up red when it comes through your water system.
You wash your white clothes, you know, and they start getting a orange hue to them. Yep. You know, they're probably
you've got an iron issue, and that's fixable. A lot of people think they have to live with that or do something. That's fixable. We have a water filter system that we put in. Put a lot of them. We maintenance a lot of them. That is a big tank, stands probably about this tall, about head high, and the water runs in through a media, and that media it will get the
like
same media.
Like a television, or
yeah, a lot of granular. There's gravel in the bottom, and then granular product in it that will take the iron out of your system, and then it back washes itself out. So those systems, you know, you're talking over $1,000. But people who have iron know that's something that's a necessity. So, and then we service those on a usually 2-year basis. If it's real bad, we'll do it yearly basis. So there's all your water quality things that we...
Where do you put that at? Like where the reservoir is? Or?
For those, you don't want them to freeze. Very likely that stuff like that can freeze. So you want to do it in a crawl space or in a basement.
Okay.
So you do have to have space.
And they are, you know, they're, like Adam said, they're yay tall. So if your crawl space is real low, we usually have to go inside the house somewhere.
And I've had situations in a crawl space where people had to go down there and just dig a spot for that filter, and that's where we install it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
So that's all the topics we have on the spring system, kind of how to maintain, what to look for. You know, there's also, last thing, there's screen, where you get your water supply at. That screen prevents leaves, salamanders, things like that from getting in. That screen is very easy to break. A lot of times it's plastic. Something steps on it, animal steps on it, person steps on it, it can break. Also, it gets stopped up. So we talk about people not going and checking their spring, and when in the worst time, usually they get run out of water. If you go and check one thing or two things, I would check what the state of your box is, your reservoir box, and that incoming line. Is it clear? Make sure there's nothing around it, and where you're catching your water, is it okay? So those would be the two things I would make sure to check on a regular basis. Anything to add? Anything?
I don't think so. I think that pretty well.
You have a city water, Don? You have?
No, I have a well.
You have a well?
I remember the days of walking up and checking the spring. I was glad to get a well so that I didn't have to do that anymore.
It's work. I mean, we talk about a lot of the old timers. We have people tell us, you know, my granddad's granddad used this reservoir and they never had issues with it. Well, it's because they went and checked it on a regular basis.
That was part of their lifestyle. You know, they just had to go up there and check it out.
Well, did you have any any water questions?
I had a person to ask me that he had purchased a new home, and it's here in town, and he's got a pump, but after it goes from the pump, it has to go uphill to the house, and the water pressure is still not good. What would you do for something like that?
You deal with this question on a regular basis.
Yeah, there's a couple potential issues. Sometimes from the city, like for Burleson's, for instance, right here outside we have a outdoor hose that we use, and literally you can turn that thing on and you could shoot even concepts with it. It's that powerful. I think there's a close to 125 psi on that thing. And then there's other areas in town where you might be at the very end of the run, and so by the time it gets to you, it's kind of and so one of the best things that you can do in the case where you have too much pressure is there's a pressure reducing valve that smacks the pressure down and makes it more. 125 psi is too much for a home. You don't want to be that high. But on the alternative to that is when you have too low of pressure, to have a pump like a jet pump and also a pressure tank that's in line in the system. So city water's coming into it. That pressure tank is there to add some extra oomph, and so you got the volume coming in from the town, but you need the extra pressure. So the pressure tank and that jet pump then can send 30 to 50 pounds or 40 to 60 pounds to the house to help elevate that level. The other option you can go with instead of a jet pump in the tank is they make inline booster pumps, and so as soon as they sense a demand, you turn on a faucet. Water starts flowing a little bit, that thing kicks on, and as long as the volume's there, as long as there's something for it to pull, then they're capable of sending 80 psi to the home. So one of those two options in his case would probably be the best option. Now if he already has a pump and it's still not,
I'm not sure he does.
If it's still not doing what it needs to be done, then we probably need to check out the pressure tank and make sure that the pressure switch and the pressure tank are set to the right on and off pressure, because it may need to be elevated a little bit especially if it's a pretty good ways away. Jet pumps aren't super strong, and so they're good within about 25 feet or so, and then they start really going down. So in his case, to check and make sure okay, if he doesn't have a pump, then it's probably prime for him to do something like that, whether it be a jet pump and a pressure tank or just a actual booster pump.
Yep.
And then making sure that he's got the proper pipe size coming into that to facilitate the volume, so the pump's not pulling and then there's not enough there and it's kind of sputtering and
Yep.
I ain't got nothing to give. So that would be the way to kind of. And there are a lot of people in town that have. My parents actually have town water, but they have a jet pump that pulls and pushes.
I live at the top of Carter's Ridge, and if I did not have a jet pump and a pressure tank on city water, I would probably have about 20 psi, which in a shower feels like somebody just
like
dribbling water on.
It's been so long since I've had city water. Do some people have the city water and then no pump?
Yeah, I do.
I actually,
I have no
my in-laws live throw a rock and hit them, and they do not, and they talk about that pressure drop issue, because both of us would be on the same area of that line, and we've got the jet pump and they do not, and that's just kind of where it runs. If there's some people, Burleson Plumbing for example, we don't need the jet pump because coming in it's 125 psi.
If there's a fire anywhere around here, that's where you need to be.
So yeah, it really depends on where somebody is in the line, where the pressure is coming in, but you definitely can crank that pressure up. There's a few options.
Yeah, there's some tricks to that.
Yeah. And with the spring and with people's water pressure, we just want people to know, like, those are things we get all the time. So call us. We will come look at your system, look at your spring, look at your water pressure, and we'll make the adjustments to get you where you're happy, where you want to be at. In the pressure issue, it can be fixed relatively easily, maybe with an installed pump and a pressure tank. And with a reservoir, if we're looking at installing a new reservoir, then there's going to be some digging. It's a little more extensive, but we can walk you through everybody, we can walk you through those things
Yeah.
and tell you what your options are and what you can do, and kind of give you a price on all those things so you kind of know what to budget for. But everything's fixable.
Yes.
The moral of the story. So with that, we'll wrap up this segment. And I do want to mention that we do need questions. We do want to give away a Wi-Fi thermostat in a month.
Yeah.
The end of next month, we're going to give that away. So go to burlesonplumbing.com/QA. Ask questions. Ask us questions about your water pressure, about city water. Anything you want to ask it there, and you'll get entered to win that thermostat. And Donald, anything you want to mention here at the closing?
On my part of the job, the number one problem facing Mitchell County is the drug problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we arrest several for it, but, you know, we've got to work as a community to try to put a stop to the drugs. I mean, it's really sad. You're really blessed if you can raise a child this day and time, and that child does not have a drug or a drinking problem. So please remember that.
What's something we as a community, us at Burleson Plumbing, can do as a community to help with that?
Community awareness. Keep an eye on your loved one. Know what they're doing with their life. Talk to them. Try to get them the help that they need. You know, the counseling's out there. It's hard to find sometimes. You know, some people use the methadone, some people use the Suboxone. You know, I've got mixed reviews on that, but please seek out the experts if they do have that problem.
Yeah, good. That's definitely something that it's good to see you guys being active and working on that, because, you know, from our standpoint, we've had very recently employees that we let go that had an issue. They had a drug issue and they weren't telling us about it. And from our standpoint, it just looks like they, you know, wanted to quit. They didn't, and that's usually what you see. People who just that's their only focus in life has become that drug issue. And you want to help them before it's too late. And you reach out your hand, like me and Ryan both have people that we've tried to reach out to and help, and you hope that you can make some sort of impact there, but it's a definite problem. So it's good to know that you guys are constantly trying to just fix that for us.
You know, it could come in any walk of life. You know, one of us could hurt our back, could do something where that we'd have to start taking pain pills, and you know, maybe by the time on it for a few months or something, we're addicted. Now they're taking it off of us. It can happen.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Well, we appreciate you coming on here. We appreciate all the work you're doing in our county, and we thank you for joining us on the morning show.
Absolutely.
Hopefully our viewers went up by about 100% with you on here.
Made it for 30 minutes, my first phone call.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for watching.
Good.